Welcome back to Total Information AM with Tom Ackerman. I'm Megan Lynch. The Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District wants to do $1.6 billion in upgrades. They've submitted a proposal, and Len Toenjes is the Rate Commission Chair. He joins us live in studio this morning. Good morning.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you for being with us.
Good morning to you.
Well, whenever we talk about a rate increase, the big question that everybody has is why? Why is this needed?
Well, part of it is needed because of a consent decree that MSD is working on with the Environmental Protection Agency. A number of years ago, MSD and the Coalition for the Environment and the EPA agreed on a process to upgrade the sewer system and bring it up to 21st century standards. And that's a huge project. It has to be done in a series of projects. Obviously, you can't fix a system this big all at one time. So the Rate Commission has been put in place to help the public provide input into how all this work should be funded. As you said, MSD doesn't just want to do it, they have to do it. They need to do it according to this consent decree. So how it gets paid, how the projects move forward are all really dependent on public input, and that's what the Rate Commission does.
How do they come up with the rates?
The rates are developed by MSD staff. They come up with an initial proposal. They go to the MSD trustees. The trustees look at it, and after the MSD staff and the trustees approve what they think will work, they send it to the Rate Commission, and the Rate Commission is 15 different organizations, contractors, community organizations, Coalition for the Environment, Realtor, you name it. Those 15 people then look at what's been proposed, break it down, and accept public input. That's where we are right now, is starting these public hearings around the area. We get the input from the public. We have our own rate consultants that look at it, compare it to what's going on in other parts of the country, and then we make a counter proposal, if you will. We find areas where perhaps the public has seen something or our rate consultants have seen something that could be done better or could be done differently. That feedback goes back to the trustees. They receive that and then figure out what should be done and what should go to the voters.
So the proposal is for $1.65 billion in spending on construction and related work. There's a couple of ways this apparently could be structured. According to the proposal, part of that would be some public debt, and the other would push that off basically to the ratepayers. So describe those two options.
There's sort of a theory when you're doing these big infrastructure projects is that these are projects that will be in place for 40, 50, 60 years or longer. So it really makes sense to bond those projects. When you take on debt, the debt is paid over time. So not just the current ratepayers, but future ratepayers are paying for the work that's put in place. The other option is for the current ratepayers to say, okay, we'll buy it all right now, and we're going to just pay for it immediately. It may cost a little bit over time, obviously, if you take on debt, but it does spread that load out. So those are the choices before the voters that have been proposed by the trustees is we have to do this work because of the consent decree. Do we want to pay for it all right now, or do we want to use debt, spread it out? That's really the proposal is before the voters. And then we as the Rate Commission need to look at the structure of that. How does it affect residential customers, commercial customers, industrial customers? Everybody uses the system differently. So an array of rates are needed to make sure that everybody is equitably impacted by what needs to be done.
The public hearings start tonight. The first one's at Creve Coeur City Hall, the council chambers at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night, Brentwood City Hall and the council chambers at 6 o'clock. You're also going to go to Bridgeton, the MSD headquarters, Kirkwood, Chesterfield, and that's just in the month of June. Then you're going to set up a whole bunch more, 8 additional public hearings being planned for late July. I guess my question is, if you're going to this, will you be able to ask questions? How does that work?
At each one of these hearings, it will start with MSD staff presenting the details of the proposal. It's very complex, as you can imagine. So the MSD staff will be there and present what the options are for public input. They'll relay that all, and then at the conclusion of their presentation, there will be Q&A. There'll be rate commissioners at every one of these hearings. They'll all have a court reporter. They'll all be recorded. All the data and input from the public will be part of these proceedings. It won't be till later on in the summer, when we've completed all these hearings, that we'll actually put our proposal together. You mentioned the number of hearings. They are spread all around the region. We've looked at the map of the service area, and nobody will be more than 10 miles away from any one of these hearing sites. So it's designed to get people's input, because it's a thing that impacts everybody that is paying rates, or everybody that uses the toilet or turns on the sink.
Well, and I think for a lot of people, when they look at these numbers, maybe a little startling, because when you look just at the wastewater portion of it, depending on what voters would decide to do, rates could jump from $57 to $75 for the average single-family residence. If they decide not to go with that bond debt that you're talking about, we're talking about almost a doubling of single-family residential rates. So, this is significant for people to get involved in.
It is really significant, and we really need the public input. This is work that has to be done. As I said, it's part of a consent decree. EPA is looking over MSD's shoulder, as is the Coalition for the Environment, and it's the right thing to do. We need to do it for the health and vitality of our region. So how to pay for it is the real question.
What if people come to these meetings and they say, we don't want this significant of an increase? Would the Rate Commission look at restructuring this in any way?
We are in the business of accepting that input. We welcome that input. We hope people do show up and either are happy or sad, complain or not. All that input gets boiled into it, and different people are impacted in different ways. As I said, businesses may think that more of it should be paid for by residential consumers or vice versa. So we need to take all those things into account when we're putting it together. Yes, the input that we receive at these hearings will impact the rates.
MSDprojectclear.org/rate commission. If you want to find a meeting close to you, you can also tweet them at Rate Commission. And this is interesting. So if you want to go, but you can't get there, you don't have transportation, they have a van service.
We're doing everything to get people to participate.
They need 24 hours notice, please, at 314-335-2028. Len Toenjes, always great to see you.
Tom, thank you so much. Thanks very much for the opportunity to help people help themselves.